Welcome to Unity Talks, where the hiring experts of Dallas-based recruiting firm Unity Search engage in lively discussion with successful business leaders to dissect their careers and how they got to where they are today, the obstacles overcome to reach their success, and steps they've taken to stay at the top of their respective fields. So listen in as we provide you with the thought-provoking conversation and ideas that keep industries moving forward.
And welcome back, and we are here and we're going to jump in really quick with our guest on the Unity Talks episode because we are going to cover the entire 30 minutes with a lot of knowledge from Brett Mills, who is a CPA and a PFS, and he is a managing partner at MRM CPAs in Frisco, Texas. Brett, what does PFS stand for?
PFS stands for Personal Financial Specialist.
Okay.
Yeah, so the AICPA has this designation, which is very similar to a CFP, which a lot of people are more familiar with.
I am familiar with the CFP, I'm familiar with the CPA and all these other acronyms. That one threw me off, so I appreciate the clarification because I'm sitting here glancing at it at the last second going, I don't think I know what the PFS stands for. Now, is that test and certification and you have to have hours and everything like the CPA? Same thing?
Very similar, same thing. Yep.
Okay.
So we have to have additional CPE for that. So
Okay.
Not only do I have to have 40 hours a year, but now I have to have 60.
Yeah, you have CPE coming out of your ears right now.
That's it.
Yeah, well, that's great. Well, hey, a little bit about our guest, Brett. We're jumping in quick here. So he's married, his wife named Sarah. She was actually supposed to be here today, and she had some other obligations. And shout out to your 9-year-old because he is a huge Manchester United fan, and they are up 3-2 on Arsenal in just about the 90th as we record this, and a 3-year-old daughter. Did I get that right?
Yeah, that's right. Hi, Blake. Hi, Hannah. That's right.
That's awesome. That's fantastic. All right, so we're going to get into a bunch of different things. Leadership advice. We're going to get into understanding what MRM does and how they serve their customers. But here's what's crazy. So Brett's background is incredibly interesting. I mean, you kind of, some people would say, well, he wanted to be a software programmer. Oh, no, there's an attorney in there somewhere. No. Now he's doing accounting and now he's doing financial planning and wealth management for people with the PFS designation. Yeah. So take us back to the beginning, okay? Before we even got into school and all of these designations and stuff like that, you went to school to be a software programmer, but that really was a dream of yours when you were in middle school, right?
That's right. Yeah, so really my story goes back to when I was 13 years old.
Okay, let's take us there.
Okay, so when I was 13 years old, my father actually gave me a lawnmower and hired me to mow his lawn. And
was he going to pay you?
Was he going to pay me for $75 a week? We had a pretty big lawn, about 3 acres or so.
Wow,
so it took me a long time to
Riding
do it.
or push mower? That's important.
Push mower.
All right. So it's worth it.
The lines very nicely. So very early on, I think, is when my entrepreneurship kind of came out, because I did that for about a month and decided I would look for someone in the neighborhood to hire to do our lawn. And I did that. I found someone to do our yard for $25. And I hired the guy, and my father was both mad and happy at the same time.
So you pocketed the 50.
That's right.
And sat on the porch drinking a lemonade, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Is that what we did?
That's right, pretty much.
All right,
yeah,
that's awesome.
So that was kind of my first job, my first dream of being an entrepreneur someday. But I also am a Nintendo generation guy. I grew up playing video games, loved video games so much, and so I thought I wanted to be a video game programmer.
Yeah.
So I started taking coding in high school and in college.
Wow.
And that's what I thought I wanted to do.
All right. That's pretty cool. I would not have done that had I been a kid at that time, right? That wasn't me. I wasn't the Nintendo guy, but that's so cool because you wanted to, they had you, right? And that's what you were going to do, and it painted your destiny until you actually graduated. And 4 years into being a software programmer, it wasn't what it was cut out to be, right?
That's right. I was in my cubicle writing billing software for Blue Cross Blue Shield Hospital, and I guess sitting in a cubicle all day, just interacting with a computer is not really my personality. And so, I was up drinking beer with some of my lawyer friends, and they convinced me to go take the LSAT and become a lawyer, and that we would open up our own law firm someday. And so that's what I did.
So you quit being the software programmer and took the LSAT, and you're going to law school.
Going to law school. So that's right.
But let's back up. Let's not get too far ahead, because the same person who outsourced the lawn mowing expedition to a neighborhood kid also saw their software programming jobs outsourced, right?
That's right.
And so it got turned on you. So you started seeing things outsourced a little bit and thought, man, maybe there's a better path for me. I'm not having a lot of fun, and I'm seeing things be outsourced overseas.
That's exactly right. Back in 2000, really outsourcing became very popular. I was even sent to India once to help open up a data center there to teach folks there to do our job here locally. So I kind of saw that writing on the wall, and I could have stuck with it, I guess you could say, but I don't know, the idea, the entrepreneur inside of me was very excited by the idea of becoming a lawyer and opening up a law firm from scratch. And so that's what I decided to do.
Especially doing it with your buddies, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, are they in law right now?
They are. They're just scattered all over the place in various aspects of law.
So you go to law school, you're there 2 years, but that's not what you do right now. So what happened?
So in the, towards the beginning, middle of my, law school studies, I came home one summer, and my father's CPA. He's one of the founders of McCarthy Rosen Mills, or MRM CPAs. And that summer, I was just at his office, helping out with some filing, preparing some tax returns, and he had lost his succession plan. One of his junior partners decided to leave and go into the industry to become a CFO for one of our clients. And at that point in time, my dad just came to me and said, "Brett, you don't want to be a lawyer. How about you come on, I'll teach you this business, this industry, and we can work together and run this business together." And so I thought about it long and hard. It wasn't a very easy decision to make, but that's what I ended up doing.
So when you're thinking about that, when you were younger and you saw your dad, because your dad opened the firm in the mid to late 1960s, right?
Correct.
Plaza of the Americas, right? That's where they'd been officing for years. We'll get into that move here in a little bit.
Right.
And so had you ever thought, when he's coming home from work and you're sitting at the dinner table and he's talking about his day and all this other stuff, and you're like, that is not what I want to do?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, seeing my father work those long hours, that a lot of CPAs did back in those days, just seeing, him doing what he did, for whatever reason, that's just not something that it was attractive for me at the time. And my father didn't push me in that direction at all. So I think, where I am now is, a sentiment to him, not pushing me in that direction, but I definitely found my way there eventually.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's really cool. It's so crazy. So we're going from an IT software programmer, right, to maybe a lawyer, now an accountant, right? 3 just thrilling and fascinating jobs, people would say. I'm just joking, so don't kill me on that. And then you add on this other certification that you got just fairly recently, right, for the wealth management, wealth planning.
Correct.
Okay. So you've made fairly significant shifts, pretty quick succession early in your career when you're in school, right? So some people would say, and Brett doesn't know what he wants to be when he grows up. And there might be some fairness to that at the time. But other people would say, man, he's just got a lot of really good experience and background, and he probably uses some of the stuff that he learned, particularly the IT stuff today. How would you address people who would speak in both ways to your background and your decision in your career?
There's great validity to both of those arguments or directions, in career paths. I would say that, my IT background, and even, maybe the analytical studies that I did in law school have really benefited where I am today. Today, all of our clients, they demand, having great IT, efficient businesses. So instead of just being CPAs and involved in compliance work, really our industry has shifted more towards being advisors, helping our clients out to make their businesses more financially stable, helping them with cash flow, budgeting, financial forecasts, helping them with their IT systems, with their accounting programs. We do a lot of software conversions and implementations, and that's really what our customers are asking for nowadays.
Yeah, well, you're in a service industry, right? And I think maybe there was a time where you could just, do the taxes, and here's your bookkeeping functions, and that's the extent of the service that you're providing for your clients. And like you said, times have changed. You've got to offer more. And I think, at least what I'm hearing is you're using maybe the little bit of, I'm going to test these waters in IT and test these waters at going to law school, and now I'm going to be a CPA, and I'm actually putting it to use today, 15, 20 years down the line to serve my customers. That seems like that gives MRM an edge. Would you say it does?
I would. I do, yeah. The compliance work, it's looking backwards, preparing a tax return, financial statements, those are all historical. But the advisory work, consulting on the M&A transactions, preparing a financial plan or a retirement plan for our customers, that's really looking forward. So I would say one of our edges is we, add the backwards, and, we're looking forwards and backwards, and providing a more holistic advisory service for our clients.
So it's really competitive. Your industry is really competitive, right?
Yes.
And now more and more you have business development people who aren't CPAs who are going out and trying to win business on behalf of the partners of the firm. And so do you believe, we talked about it being the edge. That's the edge, though, that also helps you retain your customers as well. Because you're not just providing those few services. It's like, hey, this IT system, we're converting to this, what's your thoughts? And you guys are coming in and doing more than just bookkeeping, tax, and system integrations. You're trying to solve all of these needs, even if it doesn't fall under the contractual agreement between you and your customer.
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So how do you relate that to, let's relate that to an individual growing in their career, right? So your firm is providing more services to their customers that allows their customers to grow, and by virtue of that, your firm gets to grow. How do you tie that back into an individual in their career of, do I just do what my job description is? Do I do a little bit more? How do I go about doing a little bit more? Because I want to grow in my company.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I think as employers nowadays, we have to provide a very broad range of avenues for anyone to be successful in their careers. At our company, we have tax, accounting, auditing, consulting, financial planning, investment management. And, a lot of people will start off in one department, and maybe they're successful there for a while. But, maybe they find wealth management interesting, or, M&A consulting might be a passion they'd like to pursue. I would say to those people, follow your dreams. If something interests you, go for it. And I would hope that you're with an employer that allows you to grow in whatever area that you find passionate.
So you're saying being proactive. You're saying approach your employer. And you're saying maybe approach your employer with some options or map out a plan. And maybe they don't choose those options, but they know that you're interested in growing, and they're going to work with you to the extent that's available within the firm.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So do you do that currently today with your firm? Like, you're the only one with the wealth advisory certification, right? Something like that. And you've actually had people that have approached you.
That's right. So, just one example, we had a young guy join our firm many years ago. Started out as an audit manager. He did really well in that job for about a year, and he came to me and said, Brett, I'd really like to try out taxes. My father is in tax, my mother is in financial advisory, but I'd love to do some tax. And so he said, sure, Chris, come on in and, let's try you out in the tax department. He did very well there for a year. And then about the time we got into our wealth management practice, he said, Brett, this is very interesting and I'm very excited about this industry. Can I now try to get into the financial advisory business? And I said, absolutely, Chris, let's do it. I think we'll be very successful together.
Yeah.
And I really supported him along those, basically 3 career moves in 3 years within our company. And he's just very much so flourished since then.
Awesome. Okay, so now I'm going to ask you a question that may be a little bit more challenging with those regards, because I'm super curious about how you handle this situation. You have, 35 people, right?
Correct.
Growing, okay? So let's say that Chris comes to you and says, because he's done this twice, and he is like, he's a climber. I call them climbers, right? They are climbing in their career. He's like, Brett, I'm ready for the next stage. But you work with your other 2 partners, right? And you're like, man, I don't know that we have this next stage. How do you go back and talk to Chris? Is it one of those situations? You hear a lot of people that say, hey, look, at some point in time, if we don't have that opportunity, we got to let him go and help him explore for his benefit. We may take a little bit of a hit. I don't really want to do that, but we just don't have that next step for him. And we don't have that partner or whatever the next stage is here internally. Or do you create something? Like, what do you do when you're approached and you feel like you're stuck as an owner of the firm?
Right, great question. I truly believe that bringing great people into your business, they're going to challenge you all the time. They're going to challenge you to be better. They're going to challenge you to open up new service lines. And that's what we've done. We've got great people on board with us right now, and they are challenging all of us, to be better leaders, to be better partners, to grow our businesses. One of our philosophies is that we're trying to grow a great company, and to do that is we got to have great people around us. And you just have to let those people run. Let them follow their careers, follow their dreams. And yes, we'll create those avenues of service lines so that they can be happy in their careers and successful.
You can really tell that you value your employees and you love your firm. And sometimes that's so hard to do because you're sitting there looking at your company and your partners and you're going, man, I don't know how we're going to do this. I don't even know if we have the capital to get in this other line of business, but we've got to create something. We've got to let this employee who's asking for the opportunity flourish, and we got to help them get there. And it's so hard because sometimes you have to say no to certain things, which can be really challenging to do because you have that fear of, I don't want to lose this person on our team, right?
Absolutely. I mean, it takes both. It takes, I guess that entrepreneurial fire, to want to grow a business, create that great company. But then you also have to know where to say no. You have to do the ROI analysis on each one of these decisions to make sure it's great for the company. That also keeps the company healthy as well. But, it goes back to our people. I really believe in our people, and I believe in supporting their careers. And if we don't do that, then, they'll find another place to do it.
So good. So good. Thanks for that, Brett. Yeah. So 1965, let's say, I don't know, mid to late 60s, this firm is open. It's in Plaza of the Americas. And then 5 years ago, you're in Frisco, Hall Office Park, right? That's right. Quite a move. 1965, Frisco was country roads, right? And just cornfields and dove hunting. And
we used to dove hunt right up where our building is right now.
So during that transition, I've asked you before, did you lose a lot of employees? Because losing just a couple at, maybe you're 28 at the time, that's 10% of the organization, right? Losing just a few. And losing customers, because a lot of times, especially 5 years ago, you make that move, and we weren't in this pandemic society of, hey, everything's online and just go to Zoom. It's like face to face, and people are dropping in tax information periodically as they find it in a box somewhere. And you didn't lose customers. In fact, you had a lot of congratulations on the move and the way y'all handled that. And you've somehow created a firm that retains in people and retains customers. How do you do that?
That's a good question. You're right. We didn't lose hardly any clients. We lost practically no employees. I think one at the time, of that move. At the time of our move 5 years ago, we were only a firm of 10, and now we're a firm of 30, 35 in January. So, we
losing a couple is bigger than 10%.
That's right. That was a big deal. But I think it's just providing excellent service to our clients and to our employees. That has really not affected us at all. We moved from downtown Dallas to Frisco. A lot of our clients actually congratulated us, and they said they preferred to drive to Frisco from Dallas proper as opposed to going into downtown Dallas. So the move was, almost, it didn't affect us at all, really.
Yeah, and you've gone from 10 to 35 in terms of employees, so it had incredibly positive benefits for your organization, because when you go from 10 to 35, it allows you to open up lines of business. You can't really open up a bunch of lines of business with just 10, but getting more people allows you to open up lines of business to take those Chris's and keep those Chris's who are climbers and want to be challenged in different areas. So the benefit has been tremendous. Would you have gone from 10 to 35 in 5 years had you stayed in Plaza of the Americas?
I don't think so. First of all, one of our strategies about 5 to 7 years ago was to grow through acquisitions and mergers. And a lot of those were in the Plano area anyways. And I think, as most accounting firms did back in the 80s or 90s, they have been moving up a little bit further north from downtown Dallas. But we just saw everything that was happening in Frisco with Toyota moving the corporate headquarters there, with the Dallas Cowboys moving their headquarters there, with other great developments like Wade Park and other ones. Now we have the PGA moving up to Frisco. There's just tremendous opportunities up in that area, and that has definitely helped our business.
Well, yeah, when big companies come on board, you got all these little feeder companies that follow them no matter what, because they're going to park their business as a service to these bigger companies and organizations, right? And you can start picking up and picking off those little ones and bring them into your fold, which is great. Let's transition real quick. Let's talk a little bit about leadership as we start winding up here, okay? So I'd asked you yesterday, I said, hey, Brett, think about, two forms of leadership, because we're talking to climbers in their career from an audience standpoint, and we're talking to other leaders. And, let's take a moment, you take a moment, speak to both. Like, what are the qualities that people need to grow their career at maybe the rate that you did, and maybe they didn't find the path that they wanted early on, and they kind of stumbled onto it, and how do they continue to lead and grow in their career?
Right. Well, one of the first qualities that I thought of was the ability to listen, and not just listen, but also ask questions. Listening and asking questions is going to enable any professional services person, a leader, really anyone, to dive down into the root problem or issue of someone, of whatever another person is dealing with. Really ask questions. A lot of us tend to, you want to immediately diagnose someone, immediately diagnose a problem, immediately offer solutions. But a lot of times we find that if we ask lots of questions, really probe for a very long time, 15, 30 minutes, you think someone has a question, well, let's ask questions more for a very long amount of time and get to the bottom of that issue, and only then really can you provide a great service for that person to help them figure out what they have going on.
Yeah, so how do you practically tell someone, and you need to listen better, right, without it coming off wrong? How do you work on that?
I would say by practice. There are some tricks you can use to help listen to others, and just allow other people to talk. Ask questions, ask them what they're interested in, ask them what their issues are, ask them what their pain points are. I really believe that leaders should be listening about 90% of the time, if not more.
The author, I cannot remember his name. He was in the Chicken Soup for the Soul series, right? And there were like just tons of those books that were written. Well, anyways, he has a new book out. It's called Ask.
Okay, yeah.
And him and his wife co-wrote it. And I heard her speaking, and she said, think about, you've got a 3-year-old and you have a 9-year-old, especially your 3-year-old. I mean, you're asking questions about everything. Nothing is off limits. And somewhere along the line of a 3-year-old's development or a 9-year-old's development, asking questions gets beaten out of you,
Yeah.
It just stops because all of a sudden we have this I don't know where it comes from, a fear of asking questions. We stop being, well, for the most part, we stop being as curious, or we think, I'm not going to ask that question. They're going to think it's a stupid question. But we don't know that when we're younger. Like, I don't know why we can't carry that forward and we stop being as curious, or we stop just asking questions. But I thought that was so cool. Like, when you think about it, you're right in those ages, 3 years old. I mean, nothing's off limits. But then there are times, I would bet, in your day where you're thinking, oh, that'd be interesting. I wonder why that. But you don't capitalize on that moment. I know that happens to me.
Right.
And I don't know where that comes from. Why it's almost like it's beaten out of you a little bit.
Having that curiosity, I think, and the ability to never say no or close off a possibility, I think is part of that. Recently heard an improv comedy guy talking about improv comedy and how it can apply to business. And, part of what they advise is, get no out of your vocabulary entirely. Yes, and. So when you're trying to problem solve or brainstorm an issue, it's always yes, and. So it's never no. You're never cutting off an idea.
Well, that's funny because that is an old improv trick.
Yeah.
Like, whatever they're talking about, whatever the other person says, you have to say yes to it.
Right.
You can't say no because it kills the bit.
Yeah.
So you have to say yes and then take it to the next level. And that's the bit. And so working on that. So that's funny that you brought that up, but that's kind of the old trick
if we
of
apply
improv.
that to business, I think that would really kind of increase our creativity, and problem solving skills.
I love that. I love that. Okay, so last one, resilience, right? That was one. We talked a little bit about resilience and persistence and just keep grinding. And you had said, man, I failed so many times in my younger life, in my career, my older life. I failed way more than I've succeeded, but it's just having that resilience. Where does that come from?
That just comes from, just comes from within, just never giving up, having, just a growth mentality, a growth mindset. I mean, if you're wanting to switch from mowing lawns to coding to being a lawyer to, CPA, financial advisor to a leader, I mean, just, always pursue your passion. Never give up. I failed the CPA exam more times than I passed it. It's just never give up, having that tenacity to follow your dreams, whatever they may be at the time.
Is resiliency a muscle that you can grow, or is it something that you're born with? Or the growth mindset, right?
Yeah.
Are you tapped out when you're born, or is it something that you can grow?
Yeah, I think you have to work at it. I think in many ways we all at least have a tendency to have that fixed mindset to want to get a certain grade on a test and be done with it. But I think, especially in today's age where technology is just moving at such a fast pace, compliance is going to, be taken over by machine learning, AI, things like that someday. We've got to be diligent in always learning. And I think that's what it's about.
Brett, if we got you on in a year from now, are you going to be like a mechanical engineer or a chemical engineer or some other career path?
Maybe, we'll see.
Okay. We might have to check in on Brett. Hey, that's our show for today. Brett's been fantastic for us. And you heard it. It's listening, it's resiliency, and those are muscles you can work on, but it takes intentional effort to expand on them and become better. So until next time, work on those muscles.
If you're looking for the next step in your career or the missing piece for your team, Unity Search has you covered. Whether it's finance and accounting, tax services, information technology, or human resources, Unity Search is here for you with experienced and dedicated hiring professionals. Reach out today and take the next step. Unity Search, placing you first.